Here we go. Today I'm going to be talking about failure and how to fail well. And I'm going to be talking about failure in the context of natural selection 2. So while this might look like a natural selection 2 talk, it will use natural selection 2 examples. It's not specific to natural selection 2. I'm trying to talk about something general here, and that is an experiment. And an experiment is the middle of a very simplified scientific method. And this process is very important because the scientific method is how we as human beings add knowledge and grow our knowledge of how things work, and that's why we can have TVs and computers and little clicker things. So we applied the scientific method to a decision here at Unknown Worlds. I can't remember the order of my slides, so while it appears I might know what I'm doing here, I assure you I don't. But what we're going to cover today is the goals of Unknown Worlds and how those goals fed into this experiment, the situation of the game Natural Selection 2 at the time the experiment was performed, the hypothesis, the experiment itself, some analysis of that experiment, and then the conclusions that we can draw from it. So the goals of Unknown Worlds are a bit nebulous. We don't have mission statements and all that kind of fairy stuff, but we do generally want to have happy, satisfied customers. We want to have professional growth and satisfaction, which means I become a better producer and PR person and hopefully grow my coding skills faster than I'm growing them right now. And we want to have profitability. And at first sound a bit cold, but it's incredibly important because if you as a team want to have your team grow and perpetuate in the longer term, you need to make money. If you're not making money, it all disappears. So that is an important goal. Right, so the situation of Natural Selection 2 in February 2014 is it's made over $10 million in gross revenue. Good. It's got a large, mature code base. When you tinker with that code base, it can get a little bit wobbly. That's important, remember that. It has a daily concurrent max players of about 1,000 and a mean of 687, so it's not very big in terms of concurrent players. It has over 900 Natural Selection 2 Steam Workshop mods. To put that in perspective, it's 1/3 of what Civ 5 had at that time. It is 5 times Chivalry Medieval Warfare, which is a comparatively sized game, and it's 1/8 Team Fortress 2. So clearly a lot of people like modding Natural Selection 2, and it also features regular non-employee contributions, i.e. non-employees are directly contributing to Natural Selection 2's codebase. I'm going too slowly. Right, Natural Selection 2's revenue looks like this. This is indexed, it's not the actual number, but big boost at launch, some bumps around Steam sales, and we've released updates in here, but none of them clearly correlate to sales boosts. So this is just to give an overall picture, and our concurrent player numbers are relatively flat. Yes, they boost up when we have sales. The lighter dots are the max, the darker dots are the mean, and it's flat. I mean, we're not seeing growth here. It's not a CS:GO, which is just going up and up and up. Right. So the hypothesis is that we have a lot of mods, and we have a game that's sort of flatlining a little bit, and it's made a lot of money, but we'd like to grow it a little bit more. Let's incorporate saleable player content into Natural Selection 2 and achieve those goals that Unknown Worlds has profitability, growth, professional growth, and happy, satisfied customers. Hypothesis, we take some of this modding content, clearly people like to create mods, turn it into a saleable form, something that can make money, and then release that as an update. And that became, which is the experiment, and I should say, and we said to ourselves, right, if we're going to do this, it's got to achieve certain objectives. It's got to achieve the Unknown Worlds objective, and in the profitability section, it's got to achieve over $50,000 revenue. That was the target. So the experiment is Kodiak. A bloke called Loki makes a map. It's a really cool map. It's very good looking. It's great fun to play. So we say, right, we'll put that in the game. We'll add extra content to the game if you buy a DLC pack. So everyone gets the map. But if you buy a DLC pack called the Kodiak pack, you get awesome stuff like camouflage marines, aliens. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. And this is a serious thing that went on the Steam store. It's available as Steam DLC. You can buy it right now. Go and buy it. Right, now the analysis, return to our 3 objectives. This is what we need to achieve. And specifically profitability, we need $50,000 revenue. First, customers. It's hard to measure customer happiness, but we tried. We did things like forum responses at release. This is a forum thread that happens with every release we make. I took 140 forum responses from the first 140 responses, and it's only the first response. So when someone makes a second response, I don't count that. And in this case, we have basically mostly neutral and somewhat positive responses from both an update, which we believe to have been a well-received update, and Kodiak. There's no real difference. So, okay, we didn't make them really unhappy. You can also do things like like-to-view ratios on on the Facebooks and the YouTubes. And in this case, this graph makes it look like there's a big difference, but that's just because I made it 5 minutes before the postmortem started. It's actually a ratio of 0.1 at the low end, 0.7 at the high end, and in the trailers, 0.01 to 0.02. So it's all in the same ballpark, which at the best tells us, well, we didn't do something really bad, but we can't say we made customers happy. There's some other figures though. We looked at concurrent player numbers. It was a 7.4% drop since the Kodiak release. That's up to the minute today. 31% drop in concurrent since we set out to make this experiment, and 33%, and in the Steam update news, Steam does a great thing now. You make an update, gives you 500,000 impressions and tells you how you did relative to everybody else. We did 33% worse than every other update released, than the average of the take up on clicking that update module thing. So, right. In terms of professionalism, oh god, I'm at 6 minutes. Okay, I'm almost finished, so I'm just gonna crash through to 7. We have a graphics artist who in the past was a graphics artist. She is now a full-on texture artist. She can apply textures to models, all that. She has leveled up. That is great because of the Kodiak update. We're now much better at using the Steam store. And that's something you have to be good at, because if you're releasing products on Steam, you need to understand how it works. It changes often. Practice is important. We improved our trailer skills. And then the last two are kind of complicated. I was the one at the coalface on this update. I was pretty much the only resource from Unknown Worlds that was consistently applied to this update. That meant working with individuals that are often very young. They're often in university, some of them just out of high school. They're perhaps not as mature as the people we're used to dealing with in the workplace. And there would be cases, for example, where I would have productive conversations with individuals and they would then go and talk shit about me in public forums, and then return to me with the same, hey, happy, let's make more NS2 face. So that has a morale effect. Even though I can see past that and I can accept, oh, I'm not taking this personally, it does have a morale hit on you. But in the positive, all those contributors, I think they leveled up. They did hardcore programming for Natural Selection 2, and that's great. Now, profitability, $12,566 gross revenue for the Kodiak update. That graph I showed you of the indexed revenue of Natural Selection 2, this number is not going to move that graph in any direction. It's just so infinitesimally small for a company the size of Unknown Worlds, which is not tiny, but it's not, it's not tiny, it's not massive. It's just, I cannot express how much that mattered. That number doesn't matter. The expenses are varied. I'm not going to go through each one, but they're sufficient that we basically didn't even walk home with any revenue at all after all is said and done. Now, what's the conclusion to take away from this? A lot of Natural Selection 2 specific stuff, a lot of Unknown World specific stuff. That's not important to you. The important thing is that we took all this data, we sat down, we had a meeting, we discussed this data, and we made a decision on how to proceed. That acted on the data that we collected based on this experiment. It doesn't matter what our decision was, and I won't tell you. It's not important. What's important is we made one. We made a hypothesis. We conducted an experiment. We analyzed the failure. So, the conclusion is set clear objectives and measure the achievement of those objectives and apply the scientific method to what you're trying to do in your games. And I apologize sincerely for going over time.